subscribe now and press the bell icon. Never miss an update.
Namaste, konnichiwa. Welcome to the NUPUR TEWARI Show. Let's talk business, presented by Heal Tokyo and Heal India. So, we had done another episode on scholarship. Today again, we'll be talking about students' life, how to study in Japan, and how to get scholarship. And we have with us our expert, Mr. Shreyas Bharule. He is an architect, urban planner. He is a PhD in urban engineering. So, with big applause, let's welcome Shreyas. Namaste, konnichiwa, Shreyas, and welcome to the NUPUR TEWARI Show. Let's talk business.
Definitely. Yes.
How are you?
I'm good. I'm good. Thank you so much for having me here. You have been doing really good with this initiative of Heal Tokyo, and it's a really good initiative where really nice people are involved and they are doing good to the world. So I'm really proud of you because you're involved with a lot of different activities and you're also doing all of this selflessly. So yeah, so yes, I feel good. So thank you for having me here.
Thank you so much, and you are equally part of it. So, definitely, it's our thing. Let's bring some change.
Yes, definitely.
Yeah. So, actually, Shreyas, you did your PhD from Japan, and
Yes,
you came after taking your scholarship after
yes,
after doing master in India. So,
yes.
how did that scholarship happen? Because there are a lot of students from India. They have been sending me questions that how to get Japanese scholarship. So, you are the living example. You finished here your PhD. So, that would be really very much enlightening for them if you can
Mm,
explain.
mm, yes. Yes. So this in particular, like just before getting into the scholarship part, I would like to explain one particular area which a lot of Indian students are unaware of, or it doesn't happen. Like no one is there to tell you that, and that was also there in my case. But at the same time, I was fortunate to have some good mentors who had an experience in this area. So they told me this, and this is quote unquote from one of my mentors, that when you are planning your next 3 years, at least try to look at 2 years in what you have been doing. So in an interview, sometimes you get a question in a job interview. Sometimes you get a question, what are you going to do in your next 5 years? Right. So that plan of the next 5 years can be very well achieved. That goal of what you are going to say can be very well achieved if you know what you have been doing for the past 3 years. So this is something which one of my professor told me, one of my really good mentors, and that is where I started learning about how I can plan about scholarships and applications for PhD and things. To be honest, for me, there are several ways how you can get into a PhD course and ideas. But for me, it was more on the front of I wanted to learn more, I wanted to explore more, and particularly in my subject, urban planning, a lot of things, especially in India, are taught from the Western ideas or Western references. We also have a colonial past, so these ideas come into picture. So that's the background. And for me personally, I wanted to learn something from Asia. So I had applied only in two universities. One was in University of Hong Kong, and another was University of Tokyo. Now, the way how I got the scholarship is there are several different ways how to get a scholarship in Japan. But particularly in my case, I was a master's student in IIT Kharagpur. So IITs have MOUs with some of the universities in Japan. So my scholarship was that way. So I wasn't a transfer student, but I had applied, and then when I actually got selected with the merit score and everything, so then they awarded a scholarship. So that was my case.
Yeah. So, what would you like to suggest those who really interested studying
Hmm.
in Japan? Like, what would be the, because your scholarship, there are different kind of scholarship. We had done another episode also on that, and maybe in future also we'll be doing many episodes. But like, if someone is wants to do bachelor degree in Japan,
Hmm.
so,
Hmm.
do you really recommend someone coming from Indian background doing bachelor degree? And this is one. Secondly, how that person can apply for scholarship?
Okay. Yeah. So, in case of education, like your first degree is actually the degree which will decide on what your next 5 years would be. Once you graduate, your first degree actually decides where your next 5 years of experience would be. In most cases, it's not a very common thing to change your field these days. Earlier, there was a big issue because you won't get an admission. But like, if you would ask me, I would highly recommend to do your bachelor's degree in your home country. So doing a bachelor's degree overseas is, yes, very lucrative, very interesting. But what happens is getting a job after you graduate becomes really difficult in the foreign country. It becomes very challenging if you are not involved with co-curricular activities. Like, there are some students I know in Japan who are Indians, but they arrived in Japan for their bachelor's degree. But these people, they are excellent. They were really good at picking up things while they were doing their bachelor's degree in Japan. So they got involved with a lot of cultural activities and all. So that there is someone to pull them up after they graduate. So I'm sure you are aware of some of them. So yeah, so if you ask me, I would recommend that do your bachelor's degree in your home country, and then you can move on to doing a master's and PhD and so on in overseas. Yeah.
Great, great advice. Actually, I'm sure that viewers, the students who are watching, will be very much benefited. So, you came as a student. Before that, definitely you did not have Japanese experience. So, um, as we all know that India is the Japanese is foreign language. English is not a foreign language in India.
Right.
So, definitely the Indian student mostly they choose to go to West English
Yes.
speaking countries.
Yes.
So, as a student, when you came, what kind of problems did you face, which you would like to suggest, like the students who are coming here, that to avoid those or to follow these or having that kind of lifestyle, if you can
Mm,
really
mm,
explain?
mm, mm. Yes. So, something really interesting about being an Indian is that you are raised at least as a trilingual. So you know your own mother tongue, either if it is a dialect or if it is a particular provincial language. You know that, and then moving on, when you are learning, then you additionally learn Hindi, and more forward you learn English and stuff. So at least every Indian almost is at least trilingual. So I don't think accepting language from overseas is a difficult task for Indians. But of course, when responsibilities increase, so then things become difficult. My recommendation to younger students who want to get into masters and things is have a certain degree of exposure before going overseas about the language and culture as well. Now, culture doesn't mean to see animation or to see videos and movies and things like that. But yeah, documentaries help a lot. So, uh, of course, all these aspects, all these media aspects are related. But then having a general exposure about how things work help a lot. So for the younger students who are trying to get into bachelor's degrees or master's degrees, I would highly recommend that having a general exposure of what exactly the language is and what things are would be very beneficial. And the biggest bonus is most of the Indian languages which we have, the grammar is almost the same in Japanese. So you know it pretty well. So yeah, so that's the case. So picking it up would be easy if you are thinking in your own mother tongue. So Vasudeva Kutumbam, the knowledge of the world is a big family. If you live by that idea, I don't think you anyone can stop you from doing what you want to do. You know.
Great, wonderful. It's a big booster for all the young students who are really looking forward to coming to Japan. Sure, and especially it's coming from you. Such a we have achieved so much. And definitely you're like. Have you ever faced any problems that would you like to suggest the students who want to come to Japan that don't do this or don't do that? That can be problem for you. Any personal problem or personal suggestions.
Okay, so in that case, I would highly recommend having a general idea about what you can actually do, what you can actually achieve. Because a lot of times, a lot of times we have goals which are not unrealistic, but they become unrealistic because we are not working on them. That happens in most of the cases where goals are not working or we are not able to achieve them. So in that case, like I would highly recommend that know what you want to achieve and then work on it gradually, like in bits and pieces. It doesn't have to happen on the day or date when you decided that, okay, yeah, by my 30th birthday, I want to do this. It can't be like that. So because the example of COVID is the biggest example. It rocked the planet completely, and everyone is in shambles. So that's the case. So likewise, when you are planning a goal, I think planning itself, that's actually also my field. So just taking an example from there, you should reverse engineer your plans. So once you have a deadline, and this is something I learned when I came to Japan. So reverse engineering from your deadline is really good in our Indian context. Even I have done that in my student life. Just 1 week before the exam, you would sit and cram everything up. So that doesn't help in higher studies. So because to be on time, be on mark, you need to have some amount of certain degree of planning, which you need to do. So having that deadline, once you know that deadline, for example, in your another episode when you were talking about scholarships, so yes, there is a deadline for the scholarship, right? And you need to get those photocopies and you need to align all those certificates. So knowing that deadline, reverse engineer your timeline. And that helps big time. So that helps you being on the mark and at least starting the race on a really good foot. So that helps a lot. Yes.
Thank you. Actually, the viewers for your, the Shreyas, the other episode he's talking about, please do watch that episode also if you want to know more about scholarship with Professor Rajiv Shaw. That is wonderful episode. The viewers who are watching this, do watch that also because it would be very beneficial for you all. And definitely, Shreyas, that now we want to know a little bit about urban architecture, right? Urban planning, what you are
Yeah.
doing. So, what is the scope here in Japan for those who are pursuing that course back home in India or anywhere in the world?
Okay. So yeah, so in Japan, you have several. This is actually a really interesting question. Even I have received this question from some students, but it's something like medicine. So for example, doctors need to have the oath, and oath is very localized. So that oath and as well as the licenseship which you have to practice your medicine practice, having a dispensary in clinic or joining a hospital, it's very similar in terms of architecture. So you also need to have a license. You also need to know the laws, and you also need to know the regulations of the city planning authority. So all that is very localized. So in that case, if you want to move to Japan with your degree, I believe it might be a bit difficult, because having a degree in Japan, it helps a lot in any country's case, not only Japan. If you go to Australia, having an Australian degree, it helps, you know. So at entry level, you may be able to join architecture office as assistant, or say drawing expert, something like that. But then it would be difficult to grow as an architect, or it will be difficult to grow as a actual practicing architect in Japan, because you need to give that exam. You need to pass that exam in architecture regulations here to become an architect. So that is a case where it's there all over the world. In all countries, the regulations are almost similar, but they are very localized. So you need to have that license to practice. So of course, the degree-wise involvement in country organization, like Japanese organizations. For example, there is Nikken Sekkei, which is a very big organization which does a lot of architecture-related stuff. And there are several others like this, like Kajima, and you must have seen a lot of billboards which are there around the city. So yeah, so that's the case. So getting involved in those organizations, you can, with interviews and things, but of course you'll need a like a statutory license from the authority to get involved.
So having the degree from Japan, it helps.
Yes, definitely,
It's a big
definitely.
help.
Yes, yes, of course, because that's also a requirement when you give the exam, when you apply for the exam for licensure. They also ask you if you have a degree from Japan, and you have to submit that. And yeah, being a foreigner, your visa is also important. So the type of visa you have, for your student duration, you will have a student visa. But when you are switching, you might have to switch to engineering visa or a high skill visa. That also depends on the degree which you have received in Japan.
Mm-hmm. Great. You are talking about now visa. Maybe you have vast experience on visa also. Maybe someday I will be taking another interview of yours on visa. Definitely. So now the you had done your PhD from Tokyo University. So we'd like to know, because there are many students, they want to do their PhD, their master from Tokyo University, one of the best universities in the world. So, how was your experience doing a PhD from Tokyo University?
Wow. So I need to summarize like 3 years of experience, which is, to be honest, it was amazing. It was
Mhm.
really amazing, and it went really fast, which actually doesn't mean that the time went fast. It means that I got to do a lot of different things, because when you are involved in a lot of different things, you don't realize how fast time is moving, right? So yeah, so my department of urban engineering, it was a really amazing department to get an exposure on what is happening outside the world, as well as outside in the world, as well as within Japan. So there was this dual situation where you get to know how Japan is connected to the world, and how the world wants to connect with Japan. So that small, like microcosm, macrocosm kind of a understanding is what I got to learn from Japan. Again, then education in Japan is more of, how can I say, it's not given education. It's not an oracular tradition. It's a tradition of value education. So you receive a holistic understanding of anything you want to learn, because you are at the centerpiece of the learning curve at that time. So whatever you want to learn, whatever subject you want to learn, you are directly put on the pedestal, and then you have to see all around the place, right? So then you become, how can I say, one of the expert, because that is the core value in Japan, that if you're doing something, you should do it till the end. You should see the end of it, so you should excel in that particular area, and you need to be the flag bearer for the next people, for the next followers.
Generation.
Followers is a wrong word. Generation is also, they call it jidai here, right? So that's the thing. So that idea is there in even education. So yeah, so that was my experience, that I got to do a lot of things. I got to get involved into a lot of tourism plans in different cities, and we all, as a class, we went and presented our ideas to the city mayor, and some of the plans, urban planning plans, were made on that particular recommendation. So such local level involvement as well as international involvement. So there were a lot of foreign universities which came to do workshops with us. That experience I got to go and do a lot of conferences. But yeah, at the end of it, it also depends on your grit, how much you are willing to get involved. And my department was very supportive on what things I wanted to do. So yeah, it was a really amazing experience.
Wonderful, wonderful. I think the people around the world and the back home, they must be very excited to pursue their PhD or master from Tokyo University after listening to your experience. And as you said, that is the education is kind of holistic package here. So it is very much true. And I think, as Swami Vivekananda said, that each and every Indian should visit Japan once in a lifetime. So I think it definitely, we all understand that after being here so many years.
Right.
Yeah. So thank you so much for sharing your experience, sharing your knowledge with us, and especially these young students. They'll be very much benefited listening to you and knowing. So, but this is not the end. We have to know a lot of things from you. So we'll keep coming back to you. Thank you so much, Shreyas.
Definitely. Thank you. Thank you. Have a good day ahead.
You too. You take care.
Yeah.
Okay. Thank
Thank you.
you. And we end with namaste. So let's do namaste.
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 Thank you.
Namaste. So everyone, that was our another episode on scholarship and on students' life. If you have more questions, do write to us. We'd love to answer or make new videos on this subject. Tomorrow we have another episode, the NUPUR TEWARI Show, with another amazing guest. So don't miss the episode tomorrow. I'll see you tomorrow. Until then, do take care of yourself. Do love yourself too. Stay tuned.
Subscribe now and press the bell icon. Never miss an update.